Hey everyone, welcome back to the Concord AI Solutions podcast, the show where we explore the people, products, and platforms shaping the future of tech, innovation, and creative ecosystem. Today, we'll dive into the intersection of entertainment, community, and technology, and how creators, fans, and investors are being brought together in new ways. My guest today is Sharif Bennett. He's the co founder and chief evangelist of CineBlock, a platform that's reimagining how stories are told, funded, and experienced by combining creator empowerment, digital ownership, and next gen audience engagement. Sharif brings a deep background in building creative first platform that serves both storytellers and fans. At CineBlock, he's helping push the boundaries of what entertainment tech can do, not just for content creators, but for the entire ecosystem around them. Sharif, really excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here.
All right, let's jump right in. Sharif, can you tell us what led you to co-found CineBlock and what problems you were set out to solve?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first and foremost, myself and my co-founders, we have always had a passion for film and television. I met one of my co-founders when I was 17 years old in college. We all are graduates of a small liberal arts college outside of Philadelphia. And there is where we first began exploring just our love for film, right? So we would talk about scripts, we would write scripts, we would shoot short films. Like this was our passion. We just knew we were going to enter the industry and the industry was just going to embrace us with open arms. Typical 19-year-old naivete. And we all sort of had gone about attempting to break into the industry in these sort of roundabout ways. Myself doing stand up and improv and then, loading clips onto YouTube. My one of the co-founders, he was a producer on independent films. And then after going through these sort of ups and downs, he said, let's come together as a group and really do something, sort of merge like Voltron and really do something to help reshape the industry. And once I heard the idea that he had and he was able to sort of outline the vision, I was like, I'm sold. Let's
This is the future. Let's do it.
yeah. No hesitation.
No hesitation at all. No, that's great. Thank you for sharing. As chief evangelist, how do you define CineBlock's mission, especially for creators and fans?
Yeah, great question. Our mission is to democratize film finance and empower filmmakers and fans, right? So the idea behind it is that the traditional Hollywood paradigm or structure is really no longer working. And you really don't have to look hard to see that. With the strikes that we had in 2023, there's a new round of negotiations coming up. People are not going to theaters like they used to. There's battles right now happening. If you take a look at Netflix and Paramount battling over buying Warner Brothers Studios and all of its assets, streaming now being a major sort of thing. The industry really seems like it's in flux. Filmmakers aren't happy and fans aren't happy, right? How often do you hear someone talk about movies aren't what they used to be? The golden age of film is gone. And so for us, it's like, all right, well, how do we then make a platform or how do we even create a scenario where filmmakers are happy and fans are happy? And the reality is it's to unite the two of them, right? So that both the fans and the community, along with the filmmaker, are able to express themselves however it is that they want to. And that's by leveraging each other, leveraging the finances of the fan as well as the vision of the filmmaker and unite and come together.
That sounds great. What makes the platform different from other entertainment or creator tools?
Yeah, that's really a great question, right? So I think you have other tools that are out there and they're awesome for what it is they do, right? So there's the traditional sort of the big name brands in the world of crowdfunding that are like Kickstarter and GoFundMe, where someone makes a donation to a campaign or project it is that they have an affinity for, right? But Kickstarter and GoFundMe aren't equity based, right? They're just donation based. But then you have platforms like Seed and Spark, right? That's specifically for film and entertainment, but it's also donation based. So how we differ is that we are the first equity crowdfunding platform that utilizes blockchain for fan investment. So what that really means is that an issuer, as we like to call them, someone who's creating a campaign, they have the ability to either sell equity in their film or their television series or whatever sort of entertainment vehicle it is that they're trying to get going and offer that up to fans for the first time at a microfinance level, right? So instead of asking one person for $1 million, which is what the traditional sort of independent film producer would do, they can now come to our platform, fractionalize the cost of investment, and say, all right, we're going to offer this to fans, and to own equity in our platform will be just $100. and now you can own a piece of this film. And the ownership is tracked and logged on the blockchain so that the fan and investor has an irrefutable source that they can always turn to and say, yes, here's my invested. It's locked right here on the blockchain. This can't be changed. You can't rob me. This is mine. Right. So that's sort of how we differ from some of the other platforms out there.
That is just phenomenal. It just blows my mind, right? Like just investing with any amount of money you have in a film. That's
Yeah.
just pretty awesome stuff there. Okay, the creator economy is booming. What trends are you most excited about and how creators connect with fans and monetize their work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So trends that we're seeing. Well, obviously, I think the first major thing was just Web 2.0, which became popular about 15 years ago. I what I'm seeing that I like is fans understanding, or excuse me, creators understanding that they need fans. This is no longer a world where, in the traditional Hollywood model, sort of the actor or actress who was prominent, the only real interaction they had with their fans was, maybe like on a runway or something like that. And then the fan just, buying a ticket. And that was it. Or maybe like an autograph signing, right? But now with this creator economy, people realize like, wait, I need the fans, right? And so needing them up until the foundation of CineBlock or the creation of CineBlock was I need fans to be watching me, commenting on me, following me, et cetera, right? And that's a great trend. But now that trend is shifting to say, how can I best utilize my existing fan base to bring to life the projects it is that I love? Let's financially partner with them, right? So that they can own a piece of this. I tell anyone, if your favorite musical band or group said we want to release a special edition DVD or something along those, well, not even DVD, no one has those anymore, but a special edition behind the scenes, whatever. And in order to do that, we need to raise X amount of dollars. Would you, a fan of mine, like to own a piece of this? Most fans, if you're really a fan, would say, yeah, absolutely. All it takes is $50 and I can own a piece of this. So that's what I'm seeing, what I like in the economy. In addition, we're seeing a lot more creativity in large part because of AI. Like it or not, right? AI is here. And I know that there are some traditionalists who are just scared to death of it, but the reality is that artificial intelligence is going to bring forth a whole new wave of creators because it makes content creation that much more easy. And so I'm very, very interested in seeing how this plays out over the next 5 to 7 years because AI basically gets better every month, right? For
Well,
those,
every time you use it, right? Because it's constantly
yeah,
learning from what you're feeding into it. Yep.
exactly, exactly. So these are things that really interest me, and I'm very excited about.
Yeah, we kind of touched on this, but let me just ask you a little bit differently. How does technology enhance storytelling and investment opportunities in entertainment today? I know you kind of tap into the whole
Yeah.
AI. So do you want to tie back to that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, well, absolutely. Well, how does it enhance it? And it makes it so much more a reality for people, right? So just for those of you who are under the age of 25, you might not remember what it was like to actually go out and create content, right? You needed a camcorder. You need which or at the minimum a camcorder. You didn't have smartphones, right? You needed an actual camera, right? That was not cheap. Okay. You needed quiet. You needed a sound stage. You needed to get permits just to shoot somewhere, right? You needed all these things just to create a basic anywhere from 5 to 10 minute length content. Now with
Yeah.
AI, you can create sound stages with backgrounds. You can loop out, you can edit out, filter out so much noise, create images, make images sharper. It's absolutely incredible, right? So like that part is really changing the scope of who can now generate content. It's not some big wig who has millions of dollars at his or her disposal in the back and the support, should I say, of a major network. Now it can just be a regular individual who has an idea who can now bring it to life because of AI.
We talked about the enhanced storytelling and the investment opportunities in entertainment today.
Yeah. So it's also making investment that much easier, right? Or it's made easier because of platforms like this. I tell people all the time, like, it's such a new world when we talk about investing in entertainment for everyday people that the everyday person can't really fathom it, right? I was use the example of if we could go into a time machine right now, right? And travel back to feudal Europe, right? We're going back a couple thousand years here. The system that was set up was that a king owned all of the land. That king then bequeathed land to a knight. That knight then had reign over this land and said to local farmers in the area, "Come and live on my land. I will provide protection to you." Right? In exchange for that protection, you will give me a percentage of the food it is that you grow. And this was the economic system. So if we traveled in a spaceship back in time to that, right? Or a time travel machine and popped out and said to a worker who was currently working that land, hey, you can own this land one day. They'd look at you and say, what are you, crazy? And they would then break down the entire feudalist system, right? If we walk down the street right now and just ask the average person and say, hey, do you want to own a piece of a film? The average person might look at you with that same look that that farmer 2,000 years ago might have said to you in feudal Europe, like, what are you talking about? Own a film. It's so out of this world, such a concept to certain people. But now those barriers are being broken down because systems are now being put in place, and platforms like CineBlock are allowing for everyday people to now have access to something only the uber wealthy have had access to for years.
A lot of platforms focus on content or community. How does Cineblog bring these communities together in a meaningful way?
Great question. We basically create the platform that allows anyone to get on there, right? But also a big part of it too is that creator bringing their own community onto the platform, right? That's sort of the first key. The beauty of Web 2.0 was that it allowed, and once again, for those of you you might not, those of you who might be older might not grasp what Web 2.0 is. That's your basic social media: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, etc. What that allowed was for an individual now to create an entire community of followers based upon the content it is that they created. It also allowed those followers to curate communities within their own to say, wait, I like this person, and create sort of, chat forums, et cetera, et cetera. So now there's groups of people now who all follow one person or similar content. What a platform like Cineblock allows is for that issuer, person running the campaign, to then say to their specific audience to say, hey, I've now got this new project. You followed me for so long. You clearly support me. Let's now partner together to create content it is that you want. If you want this type of movie to come out, help support me do it. Right. And let's partner together to do it. So that's one of the ways that our platform really does. It allows for those communities to come on and say, all right, well, this is the offering that you're making. Let me do some research on it and let's immediately go. Right. And we allow for all types of projects, right? I want to be clear about this. So whether someone wants to do horror, rom-com, sci-fi, action, adventure, VR, gaming, streamlines, all types of live events, we allow for that. So all types of communities can come onto the platform and search for something it is that they are passionate about.
That is excellent. Yeah, like you said, the community, you've been following me now. It's your chance to actually own a piece of that content. So I think that's just a phenomenal idea. So that's great. Let's shifting gears. Can you share a success story or a use case where a creator or community benefited in a way that surprised you?
Mm, mm. Let's see. I think it's always surprising. Like when I speak to filmmakers, right, about this, they're often surprised at the types of people who like their work, right? You never really know who supports you until you actually get an opportunity to engage in them. So what we allow on the platform is anyone who's invested in a project to be able to communicate directly with the person who's issuing that, who's running that campaign, right? And filmmakers will come back to me and say, I had no idea that this project meant something to people way over here in this part of the country who seem to have a totally different background than what it is I have. Like I always find that part fascinating, right? So when people log on to that our site, you can see some of those communications back and forth. And filmmakers, they'll reach and they'll be like, Sharif, I had no idea. I'm from New York City. I had no idea that this person in Texas who came from a small ranch in Texas actually liked this film about this urban environment.
Yeah, it blows your mind, right?
Yeah,
Crazy. Another beautiful way of connecting people and connecting communities, right? Like,
absolutely.
it's like we are so different, but we're so much alike, right? So
Right.
I think film has that beauty to just bring everyone together. What are the biggest barriers creators face in 2026? And how can platforms like Cineblock help overcome them?
Well, one of the first ones that comes to mind, which was sort of the impetus for this, was financing. So traditionally, a filmmaker would complete a script, they'd spend a year and a half in their home writing the script, not showering, not going outside, doing their absolute worst to finish this script. And then they're like, all right, I got this great script. How do I get it made now? Right. And so then they would then look for the small percentage of accredited investors out there who have historically invested in movies. right? Keep in mind, there's a small amount of them, and they basically had their pick of films, right? So I think what our platform does, obviously, is it allows for filmmakers to think in a totally new fashion and say, well, wait, if I fractionalize this, I don't have to go out and ask one person for $1 million. I can ask a couple thousand people for a couple $100 and spread the finance of it over multiple people and thus increase the potential investor pool and at the same time increase the size of my community, right? So like all this is part of why we created it, but that always is the number one problem when I think of like when you ask the question of what are filmmakers dealing with. The second thing I'd say is marketing, really getting out there and marketing your work. Most people don't realize, like, so when you see a big Hollywood film and they're like, oh, it's $100 million budget, you realize 50 million of that went to marketing. Half of the money that goes to for the cost of these films is literally just to market. So your regular everyday filmmaker, obviously they're not sitting there on millions of dollars to market a film. So our platform allows for that, right? With trailers, with tidbits, with all types of content that can be placed on the platform and for people to come and see it. So I'd say financing and marketing are the two big issues that filmmakers are concerned with right now.
That is excellent. Just having all of this marketing done, because yeah, you're absolutely right. Marketing is the most expensive piece of anything. It's kind of crazy how companies have these huge marketing budgets because you don't really think about it, right? When you're developing a product or developing content, you really don't think about what is that going to cost. So yeah, it's like one
Yeah.
of those blind costs that
And
happens.
the other thing too, it becomes very difficult to measure what actually worked, right?
Exactly.
Like you can
Exactly.
measure clicks on a web page, you know, things like that. But like if I spend $20 million, how can I be sure that there will be an ROI for that? Right. And it's no disrespect to marketers, but it becomes a very grayish sort of area, right? So
Exactly.
that's the give and take of marketing.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Looking ahead, what technologies or trends do you think will most influence the entertainment industry over the next 3 to 5 years?
I mean, it's really hard to not point out the AI beast that's in the room at all times, right? That's going to make content that much more readily available. It's going to make it that much more readily able to manufacture and come to life, right? So I think that is probably the big one, right? And people using AI in a legally compliant fashion, right? Will be huge. Will there be plenty of lawsuits? Absolutely. For using someone's likeness and image? Absolutely. Is it a problem that we're going to have to noodle through, as one of my professors used to say? Absolutely. But there's no getting around it. It's here. Make no mistakes, right? And so there'll be a lot more content creators. Their content's going to look a lot cleaner. It's going to look a lot sharper. It's going to be produced more quickly, right? And then platforms like ours are going to make it so that all different types of communities are able to support it. So it's a whole new ballgame.
Yeah, it's a whole new ecosystem that's being
Yeah.
created. So yeah, that's awesome. Okay, if you had to predict one major shift in how new audience consume and engage with content, what would that be?
I'd say it's directly interacting with the filmmakers or those content creators, right? Directly interacting with them, not just talking about it on Twitter, right? Like that was the first stage of it, right? Like just being able to speak with them. Now it's like, wait, actual lot active participation, right? So it's like, all right, I'm going to invest in this. But when I invest in this, here's what I'm looking for, right? And filmmakers will have to do things to incentivize people to invest in their platforms, right? So it'll be things like, hey, for the first 1,000 people that invest, you get to come to the red carpet, right? And so we'll begin to see actual supporters of films actually meeting and interacting with those filmmakers. They'll get free backstage passes. They'll come to events. They'll be in some of the movies if they put down enough money. You'll become an extra, in a movie, right? And so we're going to see a lot more merging of worlds, right? Hollywood actors and filmmakers will no longer just sit in their ivory towers and look down upon their fans. Like those days are over.
That is just my mind is blown, right? Be an extra in the film because you were part of this film. This is just crazy. Yeah, beautiful. That's where we're heading. Okay, to quickly wrap up, what is one piece of advice for creators today?
Know your community. Be able to identify them, meaning know where they're located, know which platform that they're on, right? Identify them, know how to leverage them moving forward, and care about what their interests are. Understand that moving forward, You don't exist without them. At the end of the day, you won't be made famous, you won't be made rich, your film will not be distributed without their help. So you need to be able to identify them. You can't just sit in your silo, once again, in your ivory tower and wave down from time to time because you're an artist. It's boots to the ground now. And this is the new era of filmmaking, and content creators out there need to be ready for this.
Yeah, it goes back to the basics of networking, right? It's like knowing your community, build those relationships. Because again, if you're going to go ask somebody to invest in something that you're creating, they got to trust you, right? It's
Exactly.
like, yeah,
And
yeah,
and and I tell people all the time, look at the different things that people can now put their money towards, right?
so many options,
There's
crazy.
aside from the traditional real estate and stock market, money markets, right? You just got straight gambling in the past 5 years. In the past 5 years, there's been an explosion of gambling, sports gambling specifically. So I tell people all the time, why would someone want to invest in you and your project? You need to be able to clearly identify to them why they should invest in you rather than betting on sports right now at this moment. Because if they bet on sports, they'll get a return. They'll get a return. They'll either win or lose, and they'll see it within 5 minutes. It's immediate gratification. So you better be prepared to articulate to them what you are, what you're about, what your passion is, and why they should give you the time of day.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sharif. Any parting thoughts for our audience before we close off?
Parting thoughts to the filmmakers and to their communities out there. The time is now. We don't have to sit and think about dreaming about making our own projects anymore. Now is the time for action. Please visit us at cineblockfilms.com to answer some questions, and I will gladly speak.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, audience. I hope this was helpful. And yes, do reach out to Sharif and his team. And yeah, have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for having me.
You're most welcome. Talk to you soon.